Hello and welcome to chapter 12 of the CLV Revolution virtual book tour. My guest today is a true legend in the A/B testing and experimentation space, Bryan Eisenberg. He's an authority when it comes to conversion optimization and customer experience. A keynote speaker, best-selling author, consultant, and the co-founder at Buyer Legends, of course, together with his amazing brother, Jeffrey Eisenberg. They are one of the founding fathers of conversion rate optimization. So stick around to learn how Bryan got offered $25 to refer a $30,000 deal, why referral programs simply suck, and how to make them actually work. Perfect. So, Bryan, thanks a lot for joining me in this episode of the virtual book tour of the CLV Revolution.
I'm excited to be here. Having done like physical book tours, I highly recommend virtual book tours way more than trying to do like 60 cities in 30 days that we had to do back for Wait for Your Cat to Bark. This is way better.
Yeah, I hope it's going to be at least 10% as effective at the physical ones. But anyways, let's. It's an experiment, right? Let's see how it goes.
I'm all for experimentation. You know that. Always be testing.
Super. So, Bryan, in this episode, we're going to talk about the referral programs. You've had the chance to take a look at my perspective. What's your perspective about my perspective, and what's your perspective in general? And let's start with that.
Well, I mean, the first thing in my perspective is that every business today needs to think not at what we talked about even in Buyer Legends about, how do you start at the end by getting 5-star reviews? In fact, I'd say today, with the way that business and the economy is going, you need to start thinking about how you get 6 and 7-star reviews. And that means you can't just get it from yourself, you have to get it from others, right? And so, focusing in on getting referrals is a must in when you're planning your experiences today. It's the nature of the game. We can't just think of one-off transactions, which way too many companies do. They're transactional based, and it's like, okay, did I get this sale? Did I close the download from this ad? No, we need to think relationally, right? How do we expand not only to that one customer but within our community? And I really love some of the ideas that you did, and I do have some questions for you on the approach you did with the insurance, and why you chose what you chose as the premium, because I think that's an interesting perspective as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my 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 decision was preceded by a survey. So basically, we had to validate before, and I'm a strong believer into validating and iterating before going full blown to everyone. And basically, I validated with something like 1,000 of our customers first, and then we've decided that this type of approach is the best one. And again, I think it's all a matter of baby steps before going full in on any kind of initiative. If you can validate it first, because I don't know, your assumption are your assumptions at the end of the day.
100%. Again, I've always been that same thing, right? What's the lowest? And I hate to use the word because I think a lot of people get it wrong. Minimal viable product. So what's the cheapest way, the most frugal way? It's not cheap. Most frugal way that you can test whether something moves the needle or not. And I think that's the part that many marketers miss, is they go all in, they go in on their gut, they don't test it. But sometimes it's the tiniest little things that trigger people. And I'm actually surprised, especially, and we've talked about this, part of it is the software community, that even think about most SaaS products you use. they don't make it easy for you to share their product,
Yeah.
right, with others. And I think that's just kind of silly because people who are in the same industry tend to talk to each other. Think about something like Canva, right? Imagine opening up a small collection, a premium collection to somebody because they've reached a certain amount of usage, and then after they use that, you kind of tease them with opportunity to share that collection with a couple of friends,
Yeah.
right? And now you've exposed it greater. It's kind of like the original, Hotmail or the original Dropbox, right? That,
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
talked about, right? It just gives people an opportunity to do that, and so many people just don't think about it, or they think about it as oh, that's a campaign that we'll do later. It's not part of the integrated approach into solving this lifetime value equation.
Yeah, and one aspect which I think is not enough companies out there are well aware of that is that they have a residual customer lifetime value that can be generated by their existing customer base. So basically, they keep those gold mines untapped, right? They just keep on acquiring new customers, doing a decent job, but they don't do the ask. And then, as you've said, they don't facilitate people spreading the word about their products if they are good enough in a let's say simple manner, and that's a pity, to be honest, because marketing is so much than just throwing money on ads, acquiring customers that never come back.
Well, I mean, kind of a simple experience to show this. I just had my roof redone. We had very bad hail in September here in Austin. I mean, it was baseball size hail. It was big. And I was looking at one roofing company, and I wasn't really happy with the way they were interacting with me, and their salesperson was really kind of taking his time. So as I was walking my dog around the neighborhood, one of my neighbors on that side of the block decided to tell me about, hey, I should call this other company. It's the nephew of that guy who lives over there, and they do great work. He grew up here and stuff like that. So sure enough, I go ahead and I do that. Now, mind you, a new roof in Austin, I'd say runs somewhere between $20,000 and $40,000.
Yeah.
Okay. So the crew who's here, their job is to incentivize you to leave a review, right, on Google or Facebook and stuff like that, which is great. And they do a couple of little things that kind of help that. And, they take pictures and they communicate throughout the day. It's all fine. But at the end of it, they give you a $25 gift card to leave the review, which is fine. The salesperson gets back to me and says, hey, if you give me the name of the person who referred you, I'd like to get them a gift card too. And same thing, on a, call it an average of $30,000 gift card, they're going to give a $25 Visa card to this guy. Is it is it incentive enough for me to give them his name or not? Or for me to go and talk to him and say, hey, do you mind if I give them your name because you referred me? And it's understanding the value equation, and it's not the dollar amount, but a $25 gift card on a $30,000 job.
Yeah.
There's a disconnect there, right? They would have been better off, getting ordering pizzas for dinner that night.
Yeah.
Right, because it's not the value of the money, it's what the message you're sending. And if it's just pure transactional and a gift card there, and it's a small amount compared to the large amount of the purchase, you're really telling me, oh, my review and stuff is not that important. It's important, but it's not that important.
Yeah, it's like 0.1% of the total revenue they've generated thanks to that connection.
Yep. Where if they were, and I talk about this in several of my books. Our mentor Roy Williams talks about the word of mouth triggers, right? You can have word of mouth generated because of the way something's architected or designed, right? The experience is so amazing, right? Like think about ChatGPT. When people first started using it, everybody started talking about it because the
Yeah.
experience was so different than anything we've ever had before. Or if
Yeah.
you've ever been to Seattle and you go to the Pike's Fish Market and you're watching them throw fish, right? That's a kinetic experience. That's an architectural kind of experience of the way it's designed. And so people start talking about that stuff. Then there's the kinetic, which is more of the showmanship of it, right? Which is the throwing of the fish. So I apologize, I brought that one up too early, but it's how things perform that get people talking. Then it's your generosity, right? Generosity is another trigger of word of mouth. You go to a restaurant and the chef, brings you a sample dish to try even before you order, just so you can taste, the bread or something else, and then maybe a free dessert,
Yeah.
and you feel like, wow, you've done a lot for me. And then lastly is a tribal, right, that we can identify as being part of a tribe. So we're recording the day after the Super Bowl. There's a lot of people who are Kansas City Chiefs fans. So now all of a sudden, if you're giving them Kansas City gear, they feel connected to you, right? So it's a very easy way to kind of do things. But if in the scale of things you don't feel like it's generous, you're not going to talk about it, right? You're not going to
Yeah.
refer people. And I think that's where everybody looks at this as a one-time cost bucket without, as you said, looking at the long term of what impact that may have.
Yeah. It's it's as you go down the rabbit hole, you can see, Brian, how many things are being just left. I don't know, in just to float around your company, like, and it's interesting to see this type of crafting different emotional triggers, orchestrating a customer journey where you could actually validate if your triggers are working or not, and then readjusting them. And those big companies are not doing it, even though, okay, I mean, I can imagine that roof provider was, I don't know, maybe not aware about this type of implications, but you can see large companies not doing that. I mean, you're buying a freaking car which is 50 or 60 or
Yep.
$100,000, and you don't get anything to advocate for how amazing that car was for you, and there are some things, because at the end of the day, up until the machines will not buy from other machines, emotions will still be involved. So I think it's we still have a solid decade ahead to apply these principles.
Oh, 100%. I mean, talking about the car example, right? So last year, my daughter bought her first car, her first new car. And she's been having some issues with it where the horn wasn't working. And when she went to try to get into the dealer, now, mind you, this dealer, and I don't have to mention names, but they've been all over viral over TikTok because of how easily their cars have been stolen. Okay.
Yeah.
So that they're already struggling a little bit with their reputation there. But they basically told her she couldn't get in to solve the horn problem for 6 months. So I'm supposed to drive without a horn for 6 months. It's like, do you think she's ever going to tell anybody to ever buy one of these cars? No.
Never. Yeah.
And if they don't have the capacity to handle the service side, then they've got to fix something on the sales side. This is a balancing equation, because if you can't take care of your current customer base, you'll lose your sales in the long term, no matter what.
Yeah, long term, it's a lose game, because you, as you've said, uh, and I think this has to do with short-sighted execs, Brian, because they can't see that the product's experience is not ending when you've got the money from that customer. It's an experience down the line, and you have these opportunities to get more customers through that word of mouth that is as good as the trade itself, or you can get pissed off customers, which will be bad advertising for you.
Can we talk about our good friends, the Big G, and how they just recently cut out the hosting of the free one-page sites of something like 27 million businesses, or 270 million businesses, some crazy number. that, as part of their Google My Business profile, they were hosting a free .site website for them. And they just announced within 3 months they're cutting them all off. So now all these businesses will no longer have websites. Some of them have them as signs in their stores. Now, tell me honestly, like, could they not have said, hey, coming in 6 months, we're going to charge you $1 a month for it? Because how
Yeah,
much does it cost to host a one-page generic website?
yeah,
Right? They could have done so much more. Say, hey, we're gonna use our generative AI to produce a whole mini site for you. We're gonna make it even more expansive. They could have done so much. Nope. We're gonna shut the doors. It's costing us too much money. You figure it out. 3 months. What does that do long term to the value of their brand? And they keep doing this, but now they've messed up with a lot of small businesses as well. And you keep closing down, those vital resources. Look what they did with this um, rollout of the new Google Analytics. GA4 is a terrible
yeah.
product with a terrible rollout. They're losing that faith that companies have in them, that they're going to support their small business, because in fact the only business they care about is their own now.
Yeah, I think this has a lot to do with, as you've said, lack of long-term perspective and looking at the dimes. You don't see how much you are squeezing out from the entire planet, and you say, you know what, let's optimize, let's cut this, let's cut that, let's cut the other. So you eventually have a brand which is not making it, it's actually making harm, even though their
Exactly.
initial credo was vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this in Waiting for Your Cat to Bark with the airlines, right? When there was one exec, when everybody used to fly in the 1970s, they'd bring you out these warm nuts, and then at some point they said, well, what if we remove one cashew from every dish? How much is it going to cost? Okay, well, so they remove one cashew, and they said, okay, well, you know what? Cashews are expensive. What if we just leave peanuts? And then eventually those peanuts become into little tiny chips, and it's just eroded all the goodwill that they used to have, and part of what used to make the experience special, into making people feel like they're being nickeled and dimed. And
Yeah,
it's the wrong thing, and that's why loyalty to the airlines is the lowest that it's ever been.
yeah. Talking about airlines, Brian, how do you see this type of, let's say, impact that you can get through your existing customer base? I mean, let's l- let's pretend that we have this magic wand, because I'm fascinated about the fact that it's not like in other industries. You don't have like 50 competitors. If you want to buy a phone, you have like maybe 400 vendors.
Mhm.
But if you want to fly from Miami to New York, you have like, I don't know, 5 6 options throughout the day.
The airline industry is a weird one, because it is subsidized, and it is a not a monopoly, but a pseudo monopoly, right? There's usually only one or two routes per leg. And so it's a tough business, and so they get away with a lot because people have no choice,
Yeah,
unfortunately,
yeah,
right? But in a business where every day there's choice, and and we see that, for example, in the software industry everywhere, right? If you come up with a software product, in the next few weeks someone else has the exact same feature, right? You just can't keep up with it. So what is it you're doing from a cultural perspective that's keeping people around your community, that they want to share having that identity of being part of that brand?
yeah. That's right. One aspect that I think is fascinating is the fact that this type of experimentation mindset towards, I don't know, let's test this, let's test the other, even though we are talking about referral programs, or we are talking about pure sales or whatever, still is still at this level of digital channels, where you have You have this type of monitoring. You can see the impact pretty
Yep.
fast. But in the real world, where I don't know, maybe 8 out of $10 are being spent, or even more than that, to be honest, there is no experimentation mindset. So we have these big companies. They don't do anything with they keep on doing what they've already done so far, because that's the status quo. And I'm being fascinated about right now. We are even doing some work towards experimenting in real time, in real life, so that
Mhm.
we can see this type of experiments happening out there. You can give them a, I don't know, a chocolate to all the kids when they are at the cashier desks. Everyone that has a kid, because it's Christmas, we give them a branded small chocolate which costs us 20 cents. And by the way, it's coming from our vendor which wanted to subsidize this. And
Yep.
what's the impact? You can see what's the impact, but there are few companies which are doing this.
Yeah, no, it's true. And we talked earlier about an example of one that I really love what they do. Coming back to the airline industry, here in the United States, we have Clear, right, which lets you go through the security lines faster. It's like a concierge for the security.
Yeah.
And that's on top of your TSA pre. That's on top of your, if you're first class, it doesn't matter. This is completely separate. So one of the things I love that Clear does is every year, especially during the holidays, they will offer members guest passes to give away to friends. And so every year when I get my guest passes, because I use Clear pretty regularly, I will go ahead and I'll put it up on Facebook. Who needs some guest passes who's traveling this holiday? And within seconds, I'll have multiple replies of people asking me, for those guest passes.
Yeah.
And they know that by giving out those guest passes, and then the fact that their experience is far superior to everything else in the airport, that if you actually do travel any bit more than once or twice a year, that spending the money on Clear and experiencing it once will get you to want to try it and buy it for yourself. And then, of course, I've been a member of Clear since they first launched in New York. So I'm in Austin now almost 12 years. So at least at least 12, 13 years of being a Clear member,
Excellent.
maybe
Yeah.
longer.
Yeah. And God knows how much business you've brought to them. Yeah, thanks to a good service, right? Thanks to something which was, because if you think about it, it's all about the frustration that you have waiting when it's, I don't know, whatever, 11 p.m. and you're coming from whatever. So it's that struggling moment, as Bob Moesta used to say, that makes you say, okay, where do I sign up? Where do I
Exactly.
pay for this service?
Exactly. I had a speaker friend of mine the other day. He was coming to speak in Austin. He was getting off the stage at 4:15. His flight was at 5:45, and he wanted to know if he would make it because it's saying that the cab ride is 30 minutes. And the first thing I asked him was like, "Well, do you have Clear?" Because if he had Clear, yeah, I'm pretty sure that he'd make it through. But with TSA Pre or Global Entry, no, not necessarily. The lines can get kind of long.
Yeah. So uh, now, Brian, if we are to wrap up this session and going beyond this chapter around the referral programs, what would be, I don't know, your thoughts towards optimizing customer lifetime value on the long run? Do you foresee companies investing resources, making this type of optimization process happening? You are more reluctant towards this. What are your thoughts towards this type of approach down the line?
So, I'm involved in a lot of different industries, and one of the industries that I'm involved with is the home care industry. Right? We have analysis as a service company called Data Turk that Jeffrey and I, with our old partner John Q, have built out. And in that industry, there's a lot of talk about getting customers to become members, right? And looking at them in terms of a lifetime value. And most of the software is trying to help them understand what that value is. And wherever they're not, we're kind of plugging it in with our analysis. We're able to do some stuff. And so, there is some focus on it there, but it's not like they're having conversations and saying, look, my cost of acquisition is X. My lifetime value of the customer is Y. If I have to acquire a new customer, it's going to cost me this. What can I do to my current customer, right, in terms of helping them bring in referrals, right? What is it going to take for them to do that? And I just don't see enough of those conversations still. I think, and then when you look in every other industry, right? You look at the e-commerce industry, the platforms aren't geared towards that kind of referral marketing from the get-go. They don't calculate that into your customer's value. And so until we have it really easy, the companies who want to get an extra edge, they'll invest in doing things like RFM analysis, incorporating, and this is something we've been talking about since early 2000s. They'll do it, and they'll find ways to leverage it within their own thing, even if they have to do it a little bit more manually than plug and go. Because by the time it's plug and go for everybody, then it's not a differentiator. So take advantage of it now and be different, right? Be remarkable by focusing in on those referral programs in a right way.
Super. So, Bryan, thanks a lot for joining me into this chapter 12 of the CLV revolution. That being said, all the best from Bucharest to you, Bryan, and thanks everyone for watching. We'll see each other in the next episode.